Before continuing with this video, make sure you've already checked out parts 1 and 2 of this story so you're all caught up. With that being said, let's begin the end, a conclusion to all the madness. In 2017, a series of limited conversations between an unknown music producer and a record label owner would lead to the upload of 6 disturbing albums, each including their own unique set of tragic poems, blocks of confusing Chinese text, mysterious music videos, and paragraphs that recite the label owner's experience with this unknown music producer, a producer with a worrisome story that seemed to get all the more real as time went by. The notorious producer is known as Begotten, and as we've learned in parts 1 and 2, the first 4 releases from Begotten and the mysterious events between them and the label owner who gave their releases a home, Dennis of Geometric Lullaby, are pretty interesting, to put it lightly. In a span of 7 months, Dennis released the first 4 albums Begotten sent to him on Geometric Lullaby. With each upload onto Bandcamp, Dennis would go into detail about his experiences and communications between himself and the unidentifiable producer at that time. I expect you've already seen parts 1 and 2, so I don't find it necessary to go over everything again. Plus, I know you all want to get to that very big question: who is Begotten? While making these videos and writing these scripts, I've made sure to keep myself from reading the full story as well. I wanted to learn the story along the way with all of you. I thought it would be more of a genuine way to create these videos, plus it would be more fun for me as well. It's been giving me something to look forward to with each installment, so trust me, I am beyond excited to finally crack this case, hopefully, and get to the bottom of all this. Also, really quick before we begin this video, in part 2 of this series, I announced that Vapor95 and I were teaming up to give away a $300 gift card to their shop. Well, the winner has been chosen, and we will be announcing who will get all that sweet virtual cash in the middle of this video. So if you left me a comment in that last video and entered the giveaway, it may be you, so make sure you stick around for the whole video to find out. As I do with a handful of my videos, I put up written versions of them as well on Vapor95's site, so if you want to check out today's topic, as well as parts 1 and 2 and everything else I have over there in written form, make sure you head on down. I will leave a link to it all in the description below. So before we get into the 5th and 6th album, the 2 final releases from the Begotten series, and what ended up happening in the saga of events between Begotten and Dennis, I think it would be really fun to talk about this thing, the Begotten Halloween mixtape. Not only would it be fun to talk about, but it's also pretty important. Begotten and the story of Begotten has become sort of legend in the vaporwave scene, there's no doubt about that. With all of the mysterious uploads Bandcamp has for us waiting to discover, the Begotten releases are easily some of the most interesting and darkest material to dive into, and the Begotten Halloween mixtape showcases the fascination not only from the fans, but from fellow artists and producers as well. This thing is massive, especially when you compare it to any of the individual albums from Begotten. 20 tracks from some serious heavy hitters. You got Fantasy on here, Cat System Corp, Mindspring Memories, Desert Sand Feels Warm at Night, just to name a small handful. And some of these tracks are ridiculously long. You got the Mindspring Memories remix of Invisible clocking in at over 10 minutes, and Aliens remix of Love hits the 12-minute mark. What also makes this mixtape so much fun and such an incredible service to Begotten is that each artist brings their own flair and signature sound to the table, but at the same time they still pay respects to that Begotten mood. Signal Wave legend Sport 3000 and his jolting take on Longing brings in an element of experimental and space exploration-esque synth work, all while still laying it on top of that classic ominous Begotten drone. We even got the Thunder from Down Under. You got the Future Funk Titan Tupperwave. Tupperwave is on this thing, giving Aquamarine a sort of lo-fi hip-hop treatment. He keeps the entire track feeling like it's submerged in this sink full of ice-cold water, a well-done little tune, and gives a great take on the Begotten sound in just over a minute's worth of your time. And Winter Quilt's remix of Ghost, I ain't even gonna say anything, I'll just let you listen to that one for yourself. Dennis also got in on the fun as well, providing mastering for a handful of the tracks on here. The mixtape dropped 7 months after the final release in the Begotten series, New Aura, which we will obviously be getting to very shortly. And this mixtape was the perfect treat for that Halloween season in October of 2019. The album dropped alongside that mouth-watering Ghoul and Ghost box set, a limited collector's edition release dropped by Geometric Lullaby that contains every Begotten album, including the Halloween mixtape, and was just such a delightful way to pay respects to the entirety of the Begotten story. But now, it's finally time to return back to where we left off. Let's rewind it back a year earlier, October of 2018. Begotten's 4th album, Happy Anniversary, had just made its way onto the Geometric Lullaby catalog, and around this time, the relationship between Begotten and Dennis almost seemed sort of finalized. But was it really though? Before that 4th release, just to quickly recap, Dennis had finally received an email from Begotten after such a long time of hearing nothing back from them at all. Dennis wondered if they were seeing the albums on Geometric Lullaby, the reception, and how the albums quickly formed a sort of cult following. Dennis had no feedback from Begotten, which was unfortunate to him because all he wanted to know was what they thought of the releases. The email Dennis received at the time of the 4th upload was short and simple. Thank you, I am still alive, I am okay for now. Short, simple, sweet, and just enough to crack a smile on Dennis's face. Despite its seemingly conclusive nature, Dennis wanted to take a couple of weeks to figure out how he wanted to respond and how he wanted to say it. He promised those who visited the Bandcamp page for Happy Anniversary that he would keep them updated on the situation. Forgive and Forget stands out to me for many reasons. I would say that this is the most melodic and romantic sounding of the Begotten series. It uses mostly a different language, so the words themselves are impossible for me to understand. But the sound of the music does all of the work with this one. Somehow, Begotten still manages that eerie feeling, a pit in your stomach, just a seed of something off as you listen to this record. After Begotten had thanked Dennis in his quick email, Dennis was grateful to at least hear anything at all. After a couple of weeks, Dennis emailed Begotten back and thanked them for the submission and their music. He explained that people were really enjoying their releases and that they, Begotten, should be really proud. The email back would sprung up a conversation. While Dennis was not given any details about this person's whereabouts or who they actually were, they began describing to him the intense mental illness that they lived with. Dennis notes on his Bandcamp that he actually holds a degree in psychology, so he understood plenty of what they explained. But something, like most things involving this artist, seemed odd. As Dennis would receive more emails, he was starting to get a feeling that he was not actually speaking with Begotten directly. It seemed as if he was messaging someone who spoke for them. A caretaker, perhaps? They spoke as though they'd studied the human psyche in depth and really knew the deepest feelings of Begotten. All of this was happening after the 4th release, obviously, and before the 5th release was put out on Geometric Lullaby. Dennis was in Europe at the time with his band on tour through Germany, admitting he was a bit distracted at the time due to the shows. A bit of time would pass without Dennis answering Begotten due to the lack of Wi-Fi and general busyness, and when he figured out how he would ask if it was someone speaking on Begotten's behalf, he would end up receiving one of the most disturbing emails yet. For the sake of YouTube, I'm not even really sure I can show what the email said. I will leave a link to the Bandcamp page for this release, as well as all the other releases I have discussed or will be discussing in this video. And obviously on the page for Forgive and Forget, that email is there. Just be advised, it is pretty morbid. Along with this email, however, there was also an attachment labeled Me. It was a video. Dennis has yet to figure out what this video means, who it is, or what's going on in it. He uploaded the video to YouTube as an unlisted link through his Bandcamp page. If you click the link there, you will be able to check it out. Dennis wasn't sure if what was attached was some staged fake video. Was it taken from a movie or TV show or even another YouTube video? He asked that if anyone recognizes it, let him know. The sound is unrecognizable, as is the individual in the video. With this latest intense email from Begotten, Dennis was once again going to take some time to figure out his next move. As time had passed since Happy Anniversary, Dennis thought now would be a good time to release the next album in the lineup given to him from the original Begotten email, as he once again found himself in a situation of email chess. Released on Christmas Eve, Forgive and Forget would be Geometric Lullaby's last gift for 2018. The release would contain 9 tracks that all begin with Un, except the bonus track. This is one of my favorite Begotten releases, an extremely emotional blend of wonderful vocal sample selections melted with a heavy pouring of warm production on top. That smoky Begotten texture is at an all-time high on here. The reverb and fogginess that lays over track 3, Understanding, is like hot fudge melting through sweet vanilla ice cream. Track number 7, Undeserving, features the pendulum of a beautifully tragic crying vocal loop on one side with a lonely and distant horn sample on the other. And in the middle, an ice-cold blast of trap percussion. That heavy-hitting hi-hat frenzy is a brilliant surprise and provides some stellar contrast to the lost mood in the majority of the track. I think lost is a good word to describe this album. It feels as if you're in a virtual world of wireframe-filled hallways. Everything is black besides the thin purple lines that make up all of the wireframes. Track number 5 is a perfect example of this. Unending, that constant echo effect used on the claps and other instrumentals really feel as if this thing is large and, like the name of the track, never ending. Unlike most releases that Begotten sent over to Dennis in that original email, Forgive and Forget would only feature 1 music video instead of the usual 2. This music video came with track 6, Unconditional, and, who would have guessed it, more skeletons. This time though, maybe the worst quality footage yet. The barely visible and barely working video is more like a collection of photos instead of a smooth flowing video. We're simply given a skeleton dancing around, breaking down and building itself back up, all before breaking down one last time before the video ends. Here was the poem given with this release. Can I recognize feelings? Can I sense that they're there? Has all gone to numbness in place of despair. I can ask for forgiveness, but I know it will never come. I can wait until you forget, but there's no ridding of what's been done. A quote was also given along with the poem that simply read, "Tell me why." I kind of see this whole thing as putting on a face, while on the inside you can feel completely different. It's something we've seen come up time and time again with cases of severe mental illness, a person seeming happy and friendly on the outside, while something is eating away at them on the inside. The album is like that. It hides away its thoughts and feelings through sound. The music given to us from Begotten is just a mask. A void is all that's left. No sanity to be found. I've lost my mind in the process. I can't distinguish any sounds. When there's nothing left to live for, and you truly are at your last, you hate yourself thoroughly, solely dwell on the past. A new you starts emerging, something different, something clean, something desperate for anything other than a dream. But dreams are what I have, they beckon me with a demand. Let's hope my dreams never come true, for if they do, you'll know exactly who I am. This was the last and final poem sent to Dennis from Begotten. This, of course, coming along with the 6th album, New Aura. I knew this time would come. I had been waiting for it ever since releasing the very first Begotten cassette, and I must say, it is bittersweet. I am honored to have been chosen by this artist to present their work to the world. I am glad that so many have listened and enjoyed what they've created. While I know it's not for everyone, I personally find each album as something special, but you probably already know that by now. New Aura may be the most experimental release of the saga, and it seems fitting as this chaotic journey only seemed to get more and more bizarre along the way. It's as if the mask from the 5th album was ripped off and Begotten's thoughts, feelings, and emotions scattered into 1,000 different directions with no destination in sight. The album pushes far the abstract and spacious sounds of darkness. New Aura plays with texture even more than the others. Tracks like Distill are straight up broken. Take the echo effects of the track we mentioned in the previous album, Unending, and turn it up to 100. Everything is crumbling here, instrumentals stepping on top of one another. a stampede of muddy sounds. However, towards the end, the only thing we are left with in that track is this eerie, unsettling howling that's laid over the congested mess of sounds. And we see this as the only tangible sound in other songs as well on this album. We see that on track number 10, Connectivity, which all feels like a Missing No version of a Mallsoft track. You'll get it if you listen to it. But once again, that horrifying vocal comes back to remind us we're just in Begotten's world. It's kind of like the same thing that happened in The Caretakers Everywhere at the End of Time, the final album in that series being the most broken and decayed release yet. Also, both projects have 6 releases in them. Just kind of interesting to note. To Dennis, New Aura gives him feelings of otherworldliness, caverns, alien-like vibes, and pure insanity. The album feels like an emotion we can't fathom, only something that the set specific person is coming from would understand. New Aura's 14 tracks clocks in at just under a half an hour, and here was the Chinese text that was provided by Begotten for this release. When translated, we find a detailed discussion on death, which leads into human transformation. It is also a bit confusing towards the end, which I'm sure is just Google Translate being Google Translate. This time, however, there were no music videos given at all. When I saw that there weren't any for the first time, I was a bit surprised. With a handful of videos in previous album releases, I was pretty sure there was going to be at least one that may answer some questions or give some closure to everything we've been going through with Begotten, but no, it's just 14 tracks. I think though this was a good move, and it kind of wraps up with the ending of the whole Dennis Begotten saga quite well, as you'll see pretty soon. Before we get into the finale of this story, I just want to quickly announce the winner of that big Vapor 95 gift card giveaway. So, big congratulations to, drumroll please, Paul Campbell. You are the lucky winner of the $300 Vapor 95 gift card giveaway. Spend them big bucks, homie. Buy something fresh. I will be reaching out to you shortly after this video goes up. Don't worry, I plan on doing some more giveaways this year, so make sure you stay tuned. And hey, maybe you'll be the lucky winner next time around. Cheers, and back to the video. Upon the release of New Aura, Dennis was saddened that this would be the final piece. He knew not whether the world would ever see another album from Begotten, but he did not want to dwell on it being over. Dennis would have rather dwelled on the emotion and satisfaction that this music would provide. If you remember when Dennis released the 4th album, he stated that he had actually received another email from Begotten thanking him for doing their releases. At the time, he couldn't think of what he wanted to say in return, and Dennis admits on the Bandcamp page for New Aura that he kind of just rushed a reply in the end, asking who they were and some other personal questions. It wasn't until several weeks later, after all of the emails, that he received an answer to his questions. It read, "Do you really want to know who I am?" At first, Dennis was a little mad at this response. Why would I ask if I wasn't sure that I wanted to know who they were? But when I opened a reply email and began to type, I stopped myself. Did I really want to know? Would I be able to appreciate the music all the same? If I knew the name of the person behind it all, would it change anything? Dennis would take a few days to consider this. He knew he did not want to rush it. Whoever Begotten was, they had trusted him with their expression. They had trusted him with their art. Dennis recalls saying, "Would it be disrespectful to say that, yes, in fact, I really wanted to know who they were?" These things weighed heavily on my mind, and I started to feel anxious about the entire situation. I stopped eating, I started sleeping longer each day, and I began to have vivid dreams. It was impossible to tell how connected or not that all of this was to Begotten. In the end, after countless hours of balancing options in his head like placing coins on the plates of a scale, Dennis had finally come to a decision. He opened up an email with confidence and hit reply. In the body of the email, he simply wrote, "You are Begotten, and that is all that matters to me. Thank you for trusting me." He hit send and smiled. He then played the entire discography from beginning to end, closing his eyes and allowing it all to take him away. Dennis no longer checked his email, constantly refreshing in hopes of a message. He had finally found the closure he had been looking for. It was never about the person behind the music, but the feeling, emotion, and atmosphere. It was about the realms to which it brought him, allowing Dennis to escape his own life, if even for a moment. He could finally fully enjoy what he had been given. Dennis was finally at peace. So the tale of Begotten and Dennis's experience with the producer is a tale we all go through in this day and age with music. I know for myself and many others who are heavily involved in the vaporwave scene and community, there's a lot of music we love and adore from people we simply just do not know. As our scene in particular, it's really the best example I can personally think of. Our scene, as it's gotten closer these past couple of years with the live shows and online shows and whatnot, there was a time though before all this where everything was a bit more unknown. Artists and aliases being able to paint even more vivid imaginations in your head of who they were and what they were all about. It's easy to fall in love with narratives given with albums, artwork that helps you get to that set place and time the album seems like it would be in, but beyond the stories, beyond the settings, the most important thing will always be the music, the sounds, which can always be experienced bare of any context. The ending may seem a bit uneventful. I know for me it was a little bit of a surprise too when I read, that final paragraph of it all. Nothing crazy happened in the end between Dennis and Begotten. Dennis was given this package of digital albums and just did what he thought was best with them. He never was able to find out if everything was a hoax or if this person was who they seemed to be. And in the end, he had the option to potentially figure it all out, but to Dennis, the music just seemed to be more important, plain and simple. Today, Begotten is still listened to by many throughout the internet, some claiming the mysterious producer to be their favorite vaporwave artist of all time. But what about our question? Is Begotten real? Fake? Is Dennis Begotten? You know what? I'll let you do your digging on that one. Sometimes a mystery is best kept a mystery. But as always, it's always up to you, my friend. If you haven't listened to the Begotten releases yet, I highly recommend doing so. The music is so rich with or without the pairing of the Begotten story. Everything is in the description of this video below for your listening pleasure. Thank you so much for spending some time with me in these videos. I do plan on re-releasing all 3 parts into one combined full-length video in the near future as well. So I'll be sure to keep you all updated on that. Also, please let me know of any other music mysteries or even urban legends you'd want me to explore on this channel in a future video. I always love hearing what you have to say, and I can't wait for our next deep dive into fascinating music. If you are interested in supporting the channel and getting a bunch of awesome and exclusive rewards, like our patron-exclusive Discord server Club Chennington, head on over to my Patreon page. I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through there. It really goes a long way with the channel. I just picked up a bunch of new audio equipment to record my scripts with, and that is all a big thank you to all of you. So yeah, thanks so much for the love and thanks for the support. Until next time, much love, your boy, Pad Chennington.